Thanks for staying with us. Now, in an effort to ensure that liquor outlets such as taverns adhere to regulations, the Western Cape government is tightening the screws. Liquor traders will be required to reapply for licenses instead of automatically qualifying for renewal. Simeon George, who's the CEO of the Western Cape Liquor Authority, joins me now via Zoom to discuss this. Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. Let's just start off with the most pressing matter here. We know that 21 lives were lost at a tavern in the Eastern Cape a week ago. What do you think the role of the regulatory bodies like the Western Cape Liquor Authority plays in preventing such horrific occurrences from taking place?
Thank you very much for the opportunity and for having me. Certainly, liquor authorities exist in order to regulate outlets in a manner to ensure that, first of all, the application would serve public interest, and secondly, in the manner in which the business is conducted, it continues to serve public interest. Should it fail to do so, then it's the responsibility of the Western Cape Liquor Authority to ensure that such an outlet no longer trades in liquor.
Just out of curiosity, Mr. George, do you think that the license from this particular tavern in the Eastern Cape failed to adhere to regulations and should be withdrawn?
Well, just simply by the ages indicated of those who are now deceased, clearly, I mean, the law is explicit as far as the sale of alcohol to minors are concerned. If that was allowed in that instance, then certainly the tavern owners will have to be brought to book.
Yeah, I think underage drinking is a problem, and I'm curious to know how the liquor authority is ensuring compliance, for example, in the Western Cape.
Yes, it is one of those measures that we have chosen to prioritize. Any complaint in relation to the sale of liquor by a licensed premises to a minor is taken very seriously. In fact, it's probably one of those offences and transgressions that invariably result in the revocation of such a license. So yes, we are very serious about that. In addition, we also have set ourselves specific targets to ensure that that we pursue that vigorously in our compliance monitoring of the licensed outlets.
I want to speak about the confusion around the non-automatic qualification for license renewals. What is the process and who will be affected by this?
Yeah, just to say that we receive throughout the year complaints around how licenses are traded, meaning that either the conditions are not met that have been imposed by the tribunal when the license was granted, or that general laws pertaining to liquor sales are not adhered to. There may be determinations, conditions such as hours of trading, of course, that are applicable. And if these are not specifically complied with, then they are pursued by the Western Cape Liquor Authority and all licensed regulators throughout the country for that matter. So, yes, certainly we...
Sorry, continue.
Sorry. Now, certainly we prioritize and ensure. The 64s, bear in mind, if we do, in fact, Section 64 that is, if we do receive complaints throughout the year, in the past, the license may still be renewed the following year. The situation now is because we have adequate or have received additional capacity to monitor compliance over the entire year and see all licensed outlets in a calendar year, we are now able to uniformly, in a fair, just, and equitable manner, assess whether all licenses are compliant. And if not, they are issued some process of non-compliance. If they have been issued with such a process, they cannot, for the year following, automatically renew their license. So you can understand that some of the outlets are considerably concerned around this introduction, but it's not a new provision of the law. It is simply that we are now in a position to ensure compliance with that section of our Act.
There's also some confusion about who has a say in whether licenses will be renewed or not. Could you just share some insight with regards to that?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that any license granted in the Western Cape has to demonstrate, or any application has to demonstrate that it will serve the public interest. If it fails to do that, then certainly we have to act against it. Public interest is facilitated by the Western Cape Liquor Authority to enable the tribunal to decide whether a license has contravened a section or its conditions imposed. And I think that is important for us. So we bring those licenses that we find over the year before. But we are facilitated before the LLT. But we are enabled in this regard by communities that participate in that process. Bear in mind that ultimately communities have to suffer and carry and suffer the consequences of errant license holders. So if the communities complain to or register complaints with the Western Cape Liquor Authority, we are compelled to respond to those.
What is the overall aim of the Western Cape Liquor Authority in pursuing this process?
This is basically to ensure that the licenses, when they are granted and considered and granted, that they continue to serve the public interest. And I think that is where Section 64 is a key intervention. If that license is traded in a manner that it no longer serves the public interest, then the communities or those parties interested are entitled to approach the Western Cape Liquor Authority and for that matter to be raised before the licensing tribunal again. The object of this is to ensure that going forward that it will be good, it will make good business sense for licensed outlets to comply and subject themselves to regulation as opposed to avoid it. And I think that is what we'd like to inculcate to ensure that licenses are all traded, taking or bearing the interest of communities and the public at large in mind.
Okay, thank you so much for your insights. We do appreciate it.